cell phone, which included a number of damaging pieces of evidence relied on by the Crown, should not have been given to the jury for their consideration based on the law.
Well, he but Jayden Chase, they have to make the fans them know what really are going on.
What you're talking about is Jayden place. See me up to the time, a cartel. I represent for Jayden Chase. We spray them face on the AK rays. See me up to the time, the Gaza station.
Yeah, man, now, move settings nation. And we no need no ladder. Now welcome to the channel. You man Jayden Chase, another one we're gonna bring on another new and it's exciting reason for the topic of dancehall, entertainment and current affairs. So if you're new to the channel, just a pass through. But don't like the reason, and of course don't like the point of view, well I'm suggesting to you that you click the subscribe icon and then kick in the like button. Now let's get right into the reasoning. Now nation, based on the order given by the court, the defense has been given permission to not only analyze the cell phone but a marked DVD containing the alleged video of the so-called murder, the DVD with the voice notes and also another compact disc. These additional pieces of evidence will prove that Vybz Kartel's constitutional right was violated along with his co-accused. Now that video in particular was released to the public to poison the minds of the jury and the public at large, and to create the concept of guilt. Why was then not that video used to secure the conviction? That is because after forensics visited the location, it was proved that the video was false. No act of that nature took place at the Avondale premises, and no bleach or cleaning agent was found either to show that there was any cleanup of any kind. Now there's also the matter of exculpatory evidence. Now that means evidence favorable to the defendant in a criminal trial that could exonerate or tends to exonerate the defendant of guilt. In Sean Storm's case, it was not disclosed by prosecution, it was exposed by the defense that his phone was pinging off a cell tower in Portmore during the time that they said the incident was taking place. During the time that they said Sean Storm was accompanying the so-called witness, and they withheld this. Remember, a piece of the evidence is still missing today because the officer said when he received the disc from Digicel headquarters and Oceans Boulevard, one of them somehow got lost. Nation, this is what the officer said in court. No other explanation was given, and to date there has never been any charges brought against that officer that I know of for that level of evidence tampering. It was also exposed by the defense the careless manner in which the so-called key pieces of evidence were being handled, the chain of custody that the DPP spoke of when the defense asked for these same pieces of evidence were non-existent at that point. As the officers said, the phone did up on top of the locker, not in a secure location. Anybody could have moved to it just to cover their tracks. The fact that the phone was used to make calls, as a matter of fact, I couldn't hear from Bianca herself, and then I continue the reasoning.
Of the phone to create a text message somehow that came before that was prophetic in some way as to the death, or alleged death rather, of Clive Williams.
Ms. Samuel says this left her puzzled. The three-member panel also seemed puzzled. President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Dennis Morrison, said our silence was sharing in your puzzlement.
Which was supposed to close the locker, which the phone was supposed to be held in, was simply left on top of the locker, and anyone could have had use or could have been privy to use of that specific locker.
And to think, the judge said, or the judges said they were in wonderment also, but yet still, residing on the appeal, they decided to uphold the initial conviction. This is crazy. Well, now, all these pieces of evidence are now up for scrutiny. First and foremost, I am of the fact that these evidences or these pieces of evidence should have never been presented in open court. The prosecution at this level, remember, we are talking about the DPP herself, the head of public prosecution, and she couldn't tell the officer, say, no, these pieces of evidence, even if used to secure a conviction, later on will cost you the case. But I suspect that there were outside forces at play. This never just happened so. Because yes, she used the evidence, but she did not know of the case until either she see it on the news or the case was brought to her desk. And if she was involved in the process before that, then it is even worse than we think. But it started even from the initial arrest was made. Remember, based on statements made by the JCF, they had the Crown witness in custody long before them go for the teacher. So them go for Vybz Kartel and charge him for substance. This was the plan all along, as we now know. Because before this Clive Williams situation, there was Bossy Boy Barrington. And they could not prove that either. But the witness from those same cases, would you believe, the so-called Crown witness was the individual being charged for Bossy Boy's crime. But this was not disclosed either, because clearly his statements thereafter. And I suspect that is why, even though the prosecution used the statement, it was the phone and the so-called text messages that they sought to use to secure the conviction, because them know say just the Crown witness alone, Fim's statement could not hold up. One, him change him statement. Two, him have a reason for tell a story. He was being charged with the very same crime him try to put on somebody else. That was his motivation. So the people were wonder why him do it, if I have money, if I have just Ray, or you could just turn upon somebody we know and tell such a lie at that level. Knowing the Vybz Kartel is not just an entertainer, but a father. Some people have asked the question, what could have motivated an individual to just do something like that? Well, the fact that he was facing years behind bars. That is clearly his motivation. And that is why he chose to, yes, make the statement we make. Now it all makes sense. And that is why the stories conflict. Because the story in court was probably doctored up by prosecution. Just saying, no proof of that, just saying. But it was different from the story doctored up by the JCF when the so-called Crown witness was being interrogated. That are the story him followed up with there so. And after the trial process and being interviewed by the prosecutors, him followed up with a different story. Whether helped by them or suggested by himself, that is why we have two different stories. But he was clearly motivated to tell a story because him never want to go to prison. He was quoted in open court as saying, yes, he was a criminal who had numerous charges of possession with firearms. These are aspects of the case that cannot be overlooked, and all of this will be documented and presented to the Privy Council. Think about it. There is no way these actions can be overlooked. The fact that from the initial arrest, the law was being broken, constitutional rights were being violated. One of your basic rights is being assumed innocent until proven otherwise. Having video footage released to the public, having contents of so-called evidence released to the public, evidence that was already manipulated and doctored by the state. No, that clouds your appearance of innocence. So in the minds of people, based on what the state did tell them, they were the ones in possession of the artist's phone. Based on what them did tell, there's no other way the evidence could have been, the so-called evidence could have been leaked. No other way the doctored voice notes and the so-called doctored videos could have been released to the public if it wasn't from that entity. And this was all done to create the look of guilt and Vybz Kartel and his co-accused. Ask me in the comment section. Comment section number 24/7. Well, first and foremost, viewers and subscribers, the examination is underway. After this, after everything is documented, they know it go. Privy Council date. And after that, freedom is a must. Good timing to them decide to them go open but the entertainment sector. Because you see that tourism thing that them talk about, we didn't talk too much about it. But I know how to feel. But it's the one called Jayden Chase, the dancehall correspondent, the Gaza representative, and I'm reminding them now. If you're new to the channel, new to the movement, just a pass through. But you like the reason, and of course, you like the point of view. Well, I'm suggesting to you that you click the subscribe icon and then the bell icon and put it on all. And this is how you know you'll be notified of all fresh content as soon as fresh content is uploaded and made available for you right here upon the platform. The like icon is located in close proximity to the share icon. Drop a like, boss a share. You know the thing. Comment section open 24/7, never lack it. Just be respectful and mindful of the guidelines. But other than that, drop your thoughts, your comments, and yes, your opinions there. And yes, we can contain reasoning via the comment section. So feel free to drop your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions. Even if you're not in agreement, you do it me I say. But me hear what you have to say and why you say what you have to say. You know what I mean? Vice the one called Jayden Chase, the dancer correspondent, the God's representative. Them now move settings from and now we don't need no ladder. And my sentiments for you and yours, of course, we want to live, love, and yes, prosper until we reason again.